And I'm glad that certain communities and certain cities are trying to address this issue. But there's much more to be done.
Senator Liu, unfortunately for me, I'm chairman of the committee, and I'm also on the, I happen to be one of 3 senators on the Budget Subcommittee on Public Safety, which funds criminal justice. And the number right now is 70 grand, $70,000 a year to put somebody in the state prison system per year. Without, that's the average. If they have particular mental health problems, you can maybe add $50,000 to that cost. If they're severely mentally ill and need hospitalization, you can add another $100,000 to that cost. Now, that's not unlike the experience at the county jail. County jail is very similar. I happen to be a former San Jose City Council member for 14 years and member of the Board of Supervisors of Santa Clara County for 12 years. And the cost of putting somebody in the mental health ward in a county jail is now upwards of $100,000 per year. It does not count hospitalization cost or any kind of health care cost. In fact, I noticed we had a few speakers from large cities that look at this issue, but I think my perspective is kind of colored by my 26 years of experience. And I think that the complications, are many, of course, but the bill, the intent of the bill to reduce criminalization, I think is where we start here. And no matter what the solution is, if we add housing, if we add the services, all those kinds of things, we got to stop spending money on criminalization because it's too expensive. Hold on. So I understand the cities want to participate in that discussion. I know that's true. That's the kind of discussion we need to have. We need to have a bigger discussion on that issue. I think Senator De Leon's No Place Like Home initiative has got to be a bipartisan, strong message that we accept that and approve that. But I just look at our budget, and it's astounding how much money we're spending by waiting for all the problems to happen rather than trying to prevent the problems from happening. We just spend a huge amount of money waiting for things to happen, and to me, we have to change that whole paradigm, the way we do things. And I think the problems are complex, but if we are dealing with housing, and the housing first model, of course, has been proven in other communities to be successful. How can this measure be tied to that? Do you see a link, how you can link up this particular issue that you're raising regarding, how would you say, the way we're processing and dealing as a public community with the homelessness issue and changing the course, maybe adjusting the course of how we deal with the issue in a successful way by your bill, and how it can be linked maybe with other ways that would be successful. I see the linkages having to happen as part of this rather than your bill be looked at
As a single
isolation.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what I'm hearing from a lot of people.
Right. It's part and part, as I said, it's part and parcel of a total solution. We can't solve the whole problem in a particular bill, but we can come together with bits and pieces of a whole picture if we can try to visualize a bigger solution to this issue. This bill is, as I said several times, it's just a small part of it. And I think we can use those monies that we spend on the criminalization of our homeless people into services. We can't expect the police force of any of our communities to be the social service workers that are needed to address problems, social problems, emotional problems, mental health problems. They don't have that kind of training. That's not their purpose. So, so I would think, and I would encourage, this is a beginning of a conversation. We started last year. It's a very difficult conversation to have because there is no, but people have tools. We know what works in certain isolated communities and isolated parts, and it's part of trying to scale up and I don't know, we all have I'm just supposing that we all have a goal that we don't want homelessness. We don't want people to be homeless. And then how did we get there? This is not going to solve that problem, but it's a small part of the problem. If we keep people out of our jails and into services, then we have freed up some monies to provide more services. And it goes back to your issue about, yes, criminalization is one part of it, housing, services, et cetera, is another part of it. The low-hanging fruit are the families that we see on our streets and the kids. As far as I'm concerned, the low-hanging fruit, we ought to be able to service those people readily. Those with addiction problems are the next tier, because it takes longer periods of time to get people back together. And then the chronic folks, they used to be the only people that we used to see. But today, all this mix is happening in our communities. And it's just, I would hope that you would really consider that this criminalization is not the solution to our homeless problem. Putting somebody away, not wanting to deal with this person, is not the solution. I can't say it any more simply.
Senator Mendoza, Senator Leyva.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Liu, for the measure. I understand what you're trying to accomplish. I know the need to address the homeless issues. I do think that your approach is just too narrowly focused on the cities. And I do think that the cities, at least the ones I represent, are really trying to work on this issue on a regional basis. And the cities that I know really want to go out of their way to help the homeless. They find services for them. Many of them go to the service and they go right back to where they were at before. They don't want those services. They just don't. They might need a different kind of services. I do think that allowing this section of the code 647 to be subdivision E to be void of anyone that might be homeless or that can be enforced with the homeless. I do think that that creates a protective class, and I think it makes it difficult for the cities to do their daily work and take care of the constituent needs, as well as providing the services that need to provide for the residents. I do want to mention, though, that I do believe that this will create more lawsuits. I think a lot of times, right now we're dealing with a lot of ADA lawsuits with a lot of the local businesses that are dealing with this. They start off as a small fine, with a $1,000 fine, but then they find 3 or 4 infractions, and it adds up to $5,000 to $10,000, and then it becomes burdensome. This could lead to that as well, for local cities being sued by whoever, but anybody who might claim they might be homeless. Law enforcement, nothing prevents a person who might be a gang member that say, "Yo, I'm homeless. I don't have a home, so I'm under this protective class here." And it happens. A lot of people get kicked out by their families because they're affiliated with gangs. They could be homeless. I know many of them. But I do think that maybe one approach that maybe you might consider, and maybe the authors of this bill, the sponsors of the bill, why don't you allow judges to make the determination whether a person is homeless or not, whatever that criteria might look like, and if they are, that these violations that are brought upon by cities, as you mentioned, or the counties, then the judge has the ability to throw them out because, you know what, they're homeless and they shouldn't be those charges should not be brought upon them. That's one avenue that you could take this bill, so that way you protect the homeless from being cited, from being arrested, from being jailed, from being, and send them to the services that they need versus putting the burden on the city saying you can't pass any ordinances, you restrict their ability to take care of their residents. And at the same time, at the end of the day, the homeless are still going to be homeless. We're not providing any extra services or support that they might need. So that might be an amendment, it might be something that you might look into changing the direction of the bill, allowing the judges afford them this opportunity for them to decide whether this individual is homeless and maybe not have those charges and those negative financial impact on those particular individual. I think that might be a better approach than this, in my opinion.
Okay, Senator Leyva? Senator Liu can respond to any of these comments if you want.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Homelessness is without a doubt the issue of my lifetime, of everyone's lifetime here. I don't find the issue to be hard. No one should be homeless. Unfortunately, I don't think that this bill gets at the heart of the matter. And in speaking with the police departments in my district, and that's the only experience I have. I know we had a lot of folks here talking about the issues that they've had in San Francisco. I'm from the Inland Empire, and in speaking with those police enforcement agencies, they kind of break it up into three buckets, if you will, of folks on the street are either mentally ill, have drug addiction problems, or people down on their luck. And in speaking to them, now, law enforcement isn't perfect, nor am I, nor is anyone, so I'm sure this isn't across the board true. But in the folks that I spoke to, one police chief in particular, they don't take people to jail unless they are doing something that is illegal. We shouldn't criminalize.
Please.
I believe that doing drugs is still considered illegal. Maybe not. I could be wrong.
Let the senator say what she wants to say without any interruption, please.
And what I was trying to get at is that in this particular city is that when they pick someone up who needs mental help, they take them to a facility. They don't take them to jail. The problem is we don't have enough, and I know you're shaking your head, but that's because that's what's happening in your city. I can only speak to what happens in my district and in my city. So what we try and do as a legislature is we try and legislate things that will help. Maybe you know that we passed the MCO tax last week, 2 weeks ago, which will provide almost $500 million ongoing funding for the disabled community. Some of that will go to mental illness to help folks. Raising the minimum wage will help keep people working and help them to have a job. The No Place Like Home initiative by the pro tem is what we should be looking at. Utah has almost eliminated their homeless population. We should be looking at issues like that. I've had the opportunity to work with homeless folks for the last 10 years, homeless veterans, as recent as this weekend, providing food and services in the district. So I know some folks feel that if we don't vote for this, we're not compassionate and that we're not doing the right thing. But some of us are trying to do the right thing every day. I just don't think this bill gets at the heart of solving the problem. So I thank you, Senator Liu. I know you're a very passionate, compassionate woman, but I just don't think that this gets at the heart of fixing the problem.
Okay, thank you. Comment, Senator Wachowski.
I see the world slightly different because I had an opportunity in private practice to represent people who were arrested under 647 who did nothing else but just was in the city. I believe that you mischaracterized that it's not a solution. The vulgarity of it is the solution. What our 482 cities are doing right now, whether it's the police or the fire calling the police or the park people or the maintenance or whomever, are calling the police to arrest people because of their homelessness. That's what's going on, simply because of their status as homeless. I'm also not particularly happy that you skinnied up this bill from 608 last year. That it should be, I apologize for not being here because I'm in the Judiciary Committee, but that you cut out the part about being in your private vehicle, which I think the de facto homeless resting place, at least in suburbia, is in your vehicle, and you don't protect that. You don't protect, answered Senator Cannella's concerns about the resting space only has to be public resting space. It can't be private. So you moved a little bit. And then you said, oh, if the public resting space is closed for everybody, then it's closed for you, person without a home. And then you were silent on harassment, because that's the little dirty secret here, is people are harassing. You know, we pay our cities and our police to go through to get those people off the street because we don't like it. It's your courage in trying to do something here should be applauded, even though I'm not happy that you skinnied up your bill. And then even you further remove, after you skinnied it up, then you've taken amendments to skinny it up again. Because you include data reporting for counties receiving funding so that we have some of that information, and that you remove the section that designating homelessness as a protected class. Now, if I missed something during the debate, that it's no longer a protected class, specifically you did it, which doesn't make me happy, but we got to do something, because the solution right now is vagrancy laws and quiet enjoyment, whatever code names what cities want to use, is to get these people off the street and put them in $100,000 jail. So am I missing something about the designating homelessness as a protected class? Did you not do that?
We did that. It's not a protected class. Right. I mean, last year we were here with 608, and we listened to the concerns, and we amended the bill to try to address those concerns, and really narrowed it to just talk about the criminality. And I have reiterated, this does not solve the problem. It does not solve the problem, it exacerbates the problem, but that's where we're at. That's where we're at, because we can't do a bill like we tried last year in order to create a more humane situation for the situation that we're all in. And, the tenor is that the bill won't get out of committee today, and you're going to be left again with this problem that everybody admits it's a problem. Nobody has any solutions. Just leave us alone. The cities just want to leave us alone. We'll do it on our own. Well, it just doesn't do. I'm sorry. It just doesn't do it.
I think your bill, as it moves forward, because I'm optimistic, is going to send a message to every city attorney in all 482 cities, and every police chief, and every fire chief, and every head of public service, that we have to do better. That the state of homelessness is not a crime. I mean, at the basic core, so what you're saying is that whatever we've been doing, we haven't been doing a better job. Let's continue this discussion. We are your friends in the city. I'm as unhappy as I am, Senator Liu, I'm willing to move this bill right now.
We got a motion. More discussion?
I see the world differently.
Okay, we have a motion. Senator Liu, you may conclude.
Well, I appreciate the conversation. I know it's taken much longer than we anticipated, and I appreciate all the support and the opposition too, because this is a conundrum here in our state and across this country, and something should be done. And we have not, we have seen bits and pieces. We tried to put together a package of bills to try to address this issue, but I think that's just too much for all of us to swallow if we can't even get the criminalization of homelessness done out of a committee. So, that's where this bill is at, and I appreciate your time and your effort in this effort for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Liu. I think the criminalization issue is a very fundamental one to our fiscal problems we have in the state of California, because it's economics. I failed to mention that when I chaired the hospital committee in Santa Clara County, that somebody going into the emergency room there was, if they had to stay overnight, it was like 25 grand just one night. If they're in prison or in the county jail, there's absolutely no reimbursement coming from the federal government. It's 100% local and state government cost. You know, there's no Medi-Cal or any kinds of programs like that. And I think it's been long established that the housing and the criminalization, and of course, everybody knows how I feel about this, the lack of mental health and alcohol and drug abuse services equal to other illnesses is a very fundamental part of this that's causing problems. If we can have all three of those, it'll reduce criminalization, housing, and then a reduction of the disparity between care for people in the mental health and substance abuse area. Government costs would be a lot less. It would save the taxpayers a lot of money. And I think you see in a national trend where both conservatives and liberals in a bipartisan way agree with this. This is a fundamental fiscal and moral thing. And I'm willing to support the motion to move the bill along. I hope others do. We need to keep this discussion alive, and I know it's not going to work perfectly for the cities, but I think the cities have to be engaged in the subject in a different way they've been engaged in the past. So if there's no other comments, one comment, Senator Allen, and then we'll call the question.
I just want to say I appreciated our conversation yesterday, Senator Liu, and I understand you're making efforts to try to reach out to the city of Santa Monica to talk about your differences over the bill, and I'm certainly very interested in the way that conversation goes.
Okay, we'll call the roll, please. The motion is
Motion is do pass
pass the bill.
and refer to the Committee on Judiciary. Bell?
Aye.
Canella? No. Allen? Bates? Gaines? Galgiani? Leyva? McGuire? Mendoza? Roth? Wachowski?
Aye.
Two ayes and 4 noes.
There are 2 in favor and 4 against. We'll leave the roll call open for absent members.
Thank you, members.
Thank you, Senator Liu. Members, we'll go on to the next item, which is I see Senator Hill here. He will have the floor. If we can exit quietly, please. Exit quietly. We're continuing to have a meeting here, please. Senator Hill, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair and members,
986.
good afternoon. SB 986 simply makes sure the punishment fits the crime. It reduces the fine for a rolling right-hand turn at a stoplight. This measure had unanimous support when it was heard in this committee in January. As you will recall, currently when a driver does not come to a complete stop at a red light when making a right-hand turn and does what is commonly called...
Excuse me. Can we have some quiet in the room, please? We're having a hearing. Thank you. Senator, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you will recall, currently when a driver does not come to a complete stop at a red light when making a right-hand turn and does what is commonly called a California stop, that driver could be facing a ticket of over $500. SB 986 reduces the base amount for right turn on red violations from $100 to $35. The final ticket amount with assessments will go from about $500 or over to about $250 to $290, depending on the local jurisdiction. Right turn on red violations will still be illegal, will still add a point to a driver's record, and will still allow for traffic school. SB 986 only impacts the base fine amount. SB 986 simply puts more parity in our traffic violations. I had numerous constituents contact my office who have received these tickets and have been devastated by that. And as I mentioned in January, in some cases it was a third of 25 to 35% of their take-home pay for the month. It's a lot of money for many families. There's been no opposition to this measure. I respectfully ask for an aye vote, members.
Okay, speakers in favor, please.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Tim Chang for the Auto Club of Southern California. We are in support of the bill. When the original elevation of the fine back in the 90s took place, it was really for the straight-through egregious violations where people go through the intersection at 40 miles an hour, and those rarely result in good collisions. When the bill was previously heard, we did submit a declaration from Mark Stivers, who was the staff member for Assemblyman Shelley, who raised that fine, and he emphatically stated that the original intent was to only address the throughput and not the right turn. So we do support the bill and urge your support.
Okay, thank you. Other witnesses?
Mr. Chairman, members, Mike Carpenter on behalf of AAA of Northern California, Nevada, and Utah. Concur with everything Mr. Chang has said. A $100 base fine that ripens into a $500 fine for a motorist is simply unfair and excessive. These rolling right turns do not present the danger of blowing through an intersection, and so a fine like that is simply unjust and makes no sense from a public safety perspective. So we would urge an aye vote.
Additional speakers indicate your support or against.
Kirk Blackburn of Ellison Wilson Advocacy on behalf of the Western States Trucking Association in support.
Okay, thank you. Other speakers in support? Do we have opposition or concerns? Please come forward, please. Okay, we have a witness.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chair and members, Jeff Tom, California Council of the Blind. You know, 40 or 50 years ago, traffic patterns were quite a bit easier than they are today, obviously, because, you know, we have so many more people than we have today. For pedestrians who are blind or who have low vision, right turns, whether they are of any magnitude at all, no matter what speed a driver is going, can be extraordinarily dangerous. When we are at a crosswalk and trying to determine whether to go, and somebody ignores the law and does a rolling on red type of turn, that can very easily result in serious injury to a person, even if the driver may only be going at a fairly low speed. To diminish the fine, I know it is well intended by the author, I respect that, but to diminish the fine only sends a message to the driving public that it is the type of infraction that doesn't mean anything. And on behalf of all blind and low vision pedestrians, and really all pedestrians, we urge you to oppose this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Other witnesses? Seeing none, Senator Hill, can you respond to the concern?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chair, and thank you. And I certainly respect the concern and the issue, and am as concerned as they are for their safety. The issue that was raised in the letter of opposition and that was just indicated, there's mentions and indicates and assumes that there's some relationship between the cost and the penalty and the fine amount and whether a person is going to make an illegal right turn or a rolling right turn, which is illegal and will maintain and continue to be illegal. I don't believe that anyone coming to an intersection before they make the right turn is, one, intending to hit a pedestrian, and if the fine is only $250 versus $500, that they're going to say, okay, it's okay to hit a pedestrian. I don't think that's the case, and I also don't think that if a person is driving to a red light and rolls through, that they are consciously even aware of the fact, is this going to be a $550 ticket or is this going to be a $250 ticket? They don't know. They know it's against the law. They know it's a violation. They know it will be a point. They know they'll have to go to driving school. They know their insurance will go up. That's what it's based on, regardless of whether the fine, I don't believe that the amount of the fine makes any difference in whether the driver is making a rolling right turn or will not make a right turn. This fine is indicated by Mr. Carpenter at the cost of $550 to $600 is what we've seen. That is the same amount if you were going 25 miles an hour over the speed limit on a freeway. It's the same amount if you do not yield to an emergency vehicle. It is actually, the rolling right turn amount is greater than the amount of the ticket today if you were to go a wrong way on a one-way street, or if you were to drive on the sidewalk. Two very obvious, dangerous situations that should be a higher amount of fine than making a rolling right. This will equalize it and put it back to where it should be.
Okay. I heard a motion, Senator Cannella, do pass for the bill.
Thank you, Anthony.
Any other questions? We'll call the roll, please.
The motion is do pass and refer to the Committee on Public Safety. Senator Bell?
Aye.
Bell, aye. Cannella? Aye. Cannella, aye. Allen? Allen, aye. Bates? Bates, aye. Gaines? Gaines, aye. Galgiani? Leyva? Leyva, aye. McGuire? Mendoza? Roth? Wachowski?
We have 7 votes in favor, 0 opposed. We'll leave the roll open for absent members, Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Senator. We'll hopefully work with the blind community on any concerns. Thank you. Let's see. Senator McGuire. We are looking for Senator McGuire. Oh, he's coming. Okay.